won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it. Hey, Mikey!
Definitely not the same Mikey. Or is it? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below, and it's going to give you a pretty good overview of what we do here at the Horror Movie Syllabus, which is, in short, we look at a particular subgenre of horror, and then we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a horror movie recommendation from you guys, something that I've never seen before that you guys recommend in one of the comment sections to one of my videos. Check it out for the first time, and I let you know, do I think it's syllabus-worthy? Do I think there's something about it that merits putting it on the horror movie syllabus? And today, the movie that we're looking at is Mikey. And Mikey was recommended to us by Chris Price, who recommended it to us in our Creepy Children subgenre video, which seems appropriate because it's about a child. And Chris gave us a slight overview of the movie. He mentioned that it was like a dark comedy and that Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser was in it, which is always a plus. And he mentioned that it had been banned in the UK for a real-life crime that happened, which I found out later through research was the James Bulger crime, where a couple kids killed a younger kid and blamed it on seeing Child's Play 3, or the media blamed it on Child's Play 3, and it kind of led to the whole video nasty crackdown in the UK, and so we have a whole thing about that in the syllabus when we talked about the Video Nasties documentary that we talked about, and also got a Video Nasties video coming in the future, so stay tuned for that. But I digress. We're back onto Mikey. That's all I knew was what Chris told me about it, and I didn't even know some of that until I looked it up afterwards, but I didn't look up anything beforehand. Didn't look up any trailers, any posters, nothing. Just went into it blind. And did I like it? Did I hate it? Well, let's find out. Like I said, the movie that we're looking at today is Mikey. Mikey came out in 1992 and was directed by a man named Dennis Dempster. And when I look him up, he doesn't really have too much of a resume. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff that he's directed, at least not feature films. It's also written by a man named Jonathan Glassner, who is mostly known for being a TV writer. He's made his bones doing TV writing, which will be noteworthy when we talk about that a little bit later. But these are the creative forces behind Mikey. And Mikey's got some interesting stuff going on as a creepy child slasher movie, I guess, is what we'll go with. And yeah, we'll get into more of that in detail in just a minute. But first, if you haven't seen it before, the movie's about a young boy who is frankly a homicidal psychopath, and he has killed his family, is now in the foster care system, and has found himself placed with a new foster family who are doing their best to try to make him feel like part of the family. But when he develops a crush on the neighbor girl next door, his homicidal tendencies get triggered. He starts acting out, but nobody really believes that he is a bad guy, except for maybe his teacher, and they want to try to stop him from doing more bad things, but hijinks abound as they do. And I'm going to stop there so as to not spoil the movie for you, but the movie is set up on a pretty solid, dare I say, strong premise, even if it is one that's a little bit well-worn. The idea of a child killer is a pretty shocking one. I mentioned the James Bulger case a little while ago, and that was something that shocked the nation, shocked the world. Anytime children are killing, it is pretty taboo, pretty shocking, pretty edgy, and so they're going right off the bat with this, and they're not shying away from it either. They're showing the kid, Mikey, committing murders, and so it's really coming out strong in the opening scenes, just doing a really good job of setting up a pretty taboo and serious and dark subject matter, which I liked. And they've got a pretty solid cast to go along with this. I mentioned earlier Ashley Lawrence, that's somebody that Chris had mentioned was in the movie, but it's also got John Deal, it's got Brian Bonsall playing Mikey, playing the main character, former child actor, now the lead singer of the Ataris. It's got Whit Hertford in the movie as Mikey's best friend. He's the kid, you've probably seen him in a lot of stuff. He's a weird looking kid. He was the kid in Jurassic Park who was talking about the raptors with Sam Neill, and Sam Neill's trying to gut him with the hook. And so he's a kind of a weird, funky looking kid, so he's very memorable. And like the actors are decent enough actors, and then so they've got a pretty good start here. Bonso's acting as the kid when he's committing these crimes early on is pretty solid, man. Like he does psychopathic pretty well. It's kind of chilling watching him kill people right at the beginning when the movie starts out. And again, really dark, showing this stuff. And it is reminiscent of other creepy children movies that we've talked about, and other just good movies like Orphan, for example. The Good Son comes to mind as another one that's really really strong in this kind of similar concept of homicidal child that nobody suspects, family's at danger, he's in the house, cool. But the movie downshifts after this a little bit. It stops being this really creepy, intense, kind of serious movie, and it downshifts into more of like this kind of family drama type thing with a little bit of a horror thriller type edge to it, I guess. But it's a noticeable shift in pace and slightly in tone as well, because while Bonso is doing a really good job as the killer kid, when he's trying to play the good kid or pretending to be the good kid, it's a little bit more rough. And actually, I said it's a solid cast, and it is, and they're doing their best, but it comes off very stiff, the acting, and I think it's due to the dialogue. There are some issues here with the direction and the script that are noticeable right off the bat in the movie, and the acting is one of them, because we've seen John Dale, we've seen Ashley Lawrence, we know they're good actors, and seeing them in here, it's not horrendous, it's not awful, but it's not great. Stiff is the word that comes to mind, and it's because the dialogue is clunky, if I'm being honest with you. There is some stuff that has to come out of people's mouths here that is rough. It's hard to sell it. It's not very tight. It's not very believable, realistic dialogue. In particular, Mikey's dialogue, when he's trying to pretend to be a good kid, it's very saccharine and like over the top, just cheesy, good child, like ding, like hee, I'm such a good boy. And I love you, mommy and daddy. Like it's rough. And Bonsall doesn't really, well, I was going to say he doesn't really sell it, but there's an argument to be made that he does, because it's supposed to be fake, and it does come off fake. It's supposed to be a kid who is pretending to be a sweet kid, and just amping up the saccharine kindness that he's got, and it comes off that way. It comes off as very fake, very not genuine. But the problem I have with it isn't that it comes off fake, because it is fake. It's that people are believing it. Everybody's fooled by the performance. And that's one of the things that's a bit of an issue with the script. Again, Jonathan Glassner, writing for TV mostly, wrote this script, and it kind of feels a little bit like a made-for-TV movie, if I'm being honest with you, because the performances here are just kind of stiff and not super nuanced and not super deep or emotive. And the reactions of the characters and the realizations, stuff like that, leave something to be desired. Like, for example, the Mikey's parents or foster parents are adamantly not going to believe that Mikey's got anything wrong with him whatsoever, even when they're confronted with clear evidence that there's something off about him. They just flat out refuse any kind of help whatsoever. Not even that they don't believe it, but they just don't even want to have like any talk of him getting any kind of like doctor help, psychiatric help, counseling, anything. They're just dead set against it. And there's no real reason why. That's not ever explained. The script has these kind of shortcomings in it that kind of stand out a little bit, if I'm being honest with you. Like, there's the very clunky Chekhov's gun in the handbag scene where the one woman is giving another woman a gun in the middle of the street. Like, oh, by the way, remember you wanted a gun? I can't have mine anymore. Here you go. And I wonder if that's going to come back. Just really ham-fisted ways of setting things up that doesn't slide by so well. Like, I usually say that sometimes you can forgive little things like this when you're having a really good time. But this movie, it's coming off just kind of cheap and a little amateur-y, even though it's got, again, actual quality actors in it. It's coming off kind of cheap. It's coming off very TV. And hey, I've seen some really great made-for-TV movies. We've even talked about some of them on the channel. But this one just feels very much like just a basic TV movie, like just something very disposable. Even the direction is very unimaginative. It's very flatly made. Like, it's just the lighting and the sets just look like sets. You know, the lighting is very basic. It's unimaginative. There's no mood to it or interesting thing to it. There's this really cheesy score that feels very much like a made-for-TV movie score that is and it's overbearing. It's very noticeable. Like you're very fixated on it. So there's a lot of technical filmmaking issues that are shining through here. And I use the word shining kind of ironically, of course, that are kind of highlighting this made for TV quality of the movie. And I'm saying that pejoratively because it's not great. It's not great. It's kind of bad. But now, just because it's bad doesn't mean you have to have a bad time with it. And I'll note, Chris had called this a dark comedy. If it's kind of a comedy with some edgier thriller horror moments to it that are kind of okay, then okay, I see where you're going with that. But I'll be honest with you, I doubt that this was an intentional dark comedy. I really genuinely think they were going for a serious psychological thriller and just didn't pull it off. Everybody's playing it straight, which I think helps the movie, but I'll get to that in a second. And the movie's really, the plot of the movie and the stuff they're showing is trying to be serious. I'm convinced of this. Because when Mikey goes back into homicidal mode, the movie picks up again. The scenes are good. Like the kills are silly because it's a child doing them, and they're kind of like slasher kills. Like some of the kills he's doing are slashery type kills, but the premise behind them is realistic. And again, I'm going to mention James Bulger. It's really a chilling premise to have, and the idea of this kid doing this is shocking. And when they show it, they don't pull the punches. It's not tremendously gory or anything like that, but the kills are premeditated and calculated, and Mikey is just completely like sociopathic or psychopathic when he's doing this. Like he's just got no remorse, he's got no hesitation. Again, Bonsel's doing a good job in these scenes. I actually think he's good here, so I think I'm supposed to be taking this seriously, and I do take it seriously. The scenes of him committing murders, the scenes of him being a peeping Tom where he's spying on the teenage girl next door, really uncomfortable, really done well to give you the ick, make you feel weird about what you're watching. It also scrapes against the psychological aspect of this too, the budding serial killer thing with Mikey doing harm to animals and things like that. So again, it's really taking itself seriously, but with the quality of the filmmaking, particularly the direction and the script, it's bad. The dialogue is bad. The acting is stiff. The sets look cheap. Everything is not good. So it kind of undercuts the seriousness that they're taking with the subject matter, and you're left with something that maybe is a little bit so bad it's good, and that might be why Chris is describing it as a dark comedy, and why I think people might get some enjoyment out of it, and why it does have a bit of a cult status, is because it's a little bit funny. You have these detectives in their 90s fashion. They're so very 90s that it's laughable. And the dialogue is bad, but you get these unintentionally campy one-liners that are pretty fun, honestly. Like I don't think you can compare this to something like that's a really well-known, so bad it's a good movie like Troll 2 or something like that. It's not going to measure up to that. But it does have a certain camp charm to it. Again, unintentional. This is where everybody playing it straight really benefits the movie, because their actions, what they're doing, what their character motivations are, make no sense a lot of the time, but they're committing to it. They're playing it so straight, so authentically that it's funny. It's funny. The kills, like I said, are kind of silly. The kid doing some of the stuff he does, kind of silly. It's a little on par with like Andy Barclay killing Chucky in Child's Play. Like it's really kind of campy unintentionally, and there's enjoyment to be had from that. There is a way to watch this movie and not take it so seriously and have a good time with it. But is that enough to make it syllabus worthy? Let's find out. So, is Mikey syllabus worthy? No, not at all. Not at all. This movie just doesn't really compare to the other movies in the creepy children subgenre, and that's really squarely where it would belong. You wouldn't try to put this in a slasher subgenre or anything like that. It's the creepy children subgenre for sure, but it's not really going to muscle out any of the entries that are in there. It's just not of the same quality or caliber as those movies. It has some camp value to it, but it's just not a very good movie. It really isn't. It's poorly made and it's poorly written. And despite having a really solid cast that's doing their best, it's just not salvageable in any kind of serious manner. But it is fun from a kind of laughing at it standpoint. Now, if you had a better script and a better director, maybe just somebody a little bit more reps under their belt, a little bit more accomplished or seasoned director, you might have made something that was actually genuinely scary. Something kind of like The Good Son or like Orphan or something like that. Something where the kills lead to a movie that has tension throughout and actually kind of unsettles you. This movie had moments of that. And there are bright spots in this movie because of that. The kills are kind of chilling. And in particular, when Mikey's stalking his teenage neighbor, it's pretty creepy, pretty unsettling. And if you could have kept that tone or that vibe, if you will, throughout the movie, you might have really had something here. But the director didn't have it within him to keep that kind of tension and ick factor kind of permeating throughout the whole movie. And instead it slides into this kind of Trekly movie of the week, TGIF style family drama kind of thing that just really isn't very interesting, either visually or like narratively. It just didn't really do much. And so it's really the talent behind the camera or the lack thereof that really kind of does this one in. I mean, not for nothing. I don't particularly love the animal killing that happens in the movie. It's not real animal killing, obviously. It's all simulated and stuff like that. But I don't love stuff like that. But it is kind of a realistic concept, a realistic idea for a budding serial killer to start experimenting with animals first. But it's almost like that's a little too real for this movie. Like, it's hard to have fun with this movie when stuff like that happens. It's a little hard to have fun when you've got the peeping Tom stuff in there. It's like this movie should have been leaning into the camp a little bit, but didn't know it. And so there is some fun to be had as a camp movie, but it's not that much fun because every now and then the movie's kind of working and kind of, being creepy and being off-putting and being unsettling, and it kind of takes you out of that silly camp aspect of it. So it's an uneven ride, and it's not an intentional thing by I can't really fault the writer about this because he didn't know this was going to be campy. He didn't know how poorly it was going to come out, but he did have some responsibility to tighten up that script and make character motivations make more sense. All this leads to not a total mess of a movie, but just one that is subpar. It's just not very good. And like I said, there are better camp movies to check out that are going to be funner and funnier and make for a better group experience. But this one wouldn't be a horrible one. If you threw this on with your friends and had some fun with that, ordered some pizza and had a couple beers, not a bad time. But it's not, I'm not going to sit there and tell you need to go check it out. So that's my thoughts on Mikey. It is what it is. It's not the most amazing movie in the world. It didn't offend me. Didn't feel like a waste of time, but didn't really feel like a good investment of my time either. It's just kind of there, just kind of there. There are better things to be done with your time. There are worse things to be done with your time. This one, it's okay. If you watch it, I don't think you're going to hate yourself, but you also could find many better movies to check out. And now we're going to check out a horror trivia pursuit card. It's that time of the video where I like to answer a question live on camera and hopefully answer it correctly and not embarrass myself. And because we're talking about Mikey, who is a budding young killer, we're going to go with the killer category on the card. Makes some sense, right? So here's our question. Nancy Thompson survives 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street to appear in what sequel in the series? This is an interesting question, and I don't want to overthink it because I think I see what they did here. So first I've mentioned this recently too. This is an older set of cards that I have. This is an older game. So sometimes the cards are out of date. Like I had a Conjuring question recently and it referenced the first two Conjuring sequels because I think the other two sequels hadn't come out yet when this set was made. So at first my thought was, oh, this is an older game. It came out before all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies had come out. But that's not accurate. I think what they're doing is something else here. And my little clue for you here is Nancy Thompson is the main character, the final girl, if you will, in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And so I think it's noteworthy that they used that name, the character's name. That's my clue for you. I have my answer to this. I bet you a lot of you will answer this question correctly because you're not overthinking it the way that I'm overthinking it, and that's probably a good thing. So I'm not going to try to overthink it for you at this stage. I'm going to kind of let you be on that one, and I'm going to say go ahead, lock in the answers, because I'll go ahead and give my answer, and then I'll explain the cryptic stuff that I'm talking about right now. Okay, so good, locked in your answer. Cool. All right, my answer is, of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors. That's the sequel that Nancy's character pops up in. And the card says A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors 1987. Right. So here's what I was thinking. Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy, is in Part 7, Wes Craven's New Nightmare as well. So when I was reading this, I was thinking, well, she's actually in 2 sequels. And maybe this card just didn't come out before New Nightmare came out before New Nightmare. But then I realized they're asking about the character, Nancy, not the actor, Heather. Because Heather Langenkamp plays herself in A New Nightmare, not Nancy Tompkins. So she's not appearing as Nancy in that sequel. She only appears as Nancy. Nancy, the character, only returns in Part 3. The character in Part 7 is a fictionalized version of Heather Langenkamp. So it's actually kind of a clever question if you're, if it's aimed at somebody like me who's a little going to think things out too much. But let me know. Did you guys get this right? I'm guessing most everybody got Part 3 right. But did anybody also want to add Part 7? Did anybody else think about it the way I thought about it? Because I'm betting a few of you out there probably went the same place I went. It was like, hey, wait, isn't she in 2 sequels? And we're not even getting into the remake, which may not have come out when these cards have come out, but the remake is a different Nancy, so we're not even going to count that. But yeah, interesting, kind of complicated question that I don't think they meant to be as complicated, but I think it winds up being kind of a neat one when you start to think it out a little bit too much. So thank you very much for hanging out to the end of this video. Thanks very much to Chris for recommending this. Keep the recommendations coming. I'm having a lot of fun with them. I even had some fun with this one, even though it wasn't very good. But yeah, keep on checking, adding stuff in the comments for me to check out. And if it's something I haven't seen before, I'll probably want to make a new video about it. But until I do, I'm just going to say, class dismissed.